everybody, welcome to Exploring with Edna, episode 23. Today I thought it would be nice to go over the start to the current state of the Dodge Raider. As you can see here, we got some pictures going. It's the lovely condition it was in during the initial rebuild process starting in 2018. Header off being rebuilt here, stock carburetor sitting to the side. This was sitting up in Moro, Oregon for a while. Here it's finally down in Medford here. We had it jacked up, starting to work on the engine a little bit more, taking out the cylinders and pistons, whatever. And those are the new ones right there. The old ones were pretty shot. We had zero compression, as you could see. It was pretty rough. Well, we had more than zero. It was probably about 25 to 30. But chips in all the pistons, a lot of carbon deposits, I believe that's what it is. And we bored it out, cleaned it up. We're getting them reinstalled here at this point. And obviously the header's reinstalled. And there I am, very dirty after a day of work. Slowly but surely we're getting back up to hypothetical operational condition. But at this point the radiator is not installed yet. We had the oil pan gasket finally reinstalled. That was a big step because everything was installed right. Had a new oil pump on there. And we're getting pretty close to a first running here. I forget the name of the plate, but that front axis plate, we have it sealed up and going back on. Water pump attached. And the radiator finally is back in. We're going to have our first startup attempt here in a moment.
Now try to turn it.
It did not go well, clearly. But the next time I visited the second tank here, a very rattle and nothing was super secured down to the air system there, but it did start up. Completely cleaned up at that point, sealed up, and we're finally getting ready for our first test drive. Got all the skid plates attached. And at that point, we still had the old bumper on there. Our first true attempt going up a hill here. It did make it, but it was so poorly timed at that moment, and it was a struggle. This was in four-wheel drive low just to get up the hill, but it made it. And this was also part of that trip here, or the next one, I forget, but this was by the time we were discovering we had a really weird noise issue at certain points. The clanking you're actually hearing is the old fuel pump, which we did replace after this. Here we are getting the new bumper on here in just a second. Nice and shiny, and no major dent. The cab is all cleaned up at this point, clearly. It had been for a little bit. It smelled like terrible French fries. I wish I was making that up, but it doesn't smell like French fries anymore. Got new shocks, new radio. Here I am showing you the USB port I installed. I took out the factory clock radio to make that spot available. I didn't really see a point for the factory radio anymore because the addition of the radio in there. Got an aftermarket Weber carburetor installed at this point. Running a lot smoother at this point. I know it is possible to rebuild was just a little too much work. These tires here were a good upgrade for us. They were studded, however, and you'll see here later I take out all those studs so I stay road legal. A lot of this has changed. It's not mounted so poorly anymore, but it's better. We did the axles, the transmission, all that terrible old fluid. It was difficult to get to, but it's all refreshed now. Yeah, there's those studs. All the electrical work I did, and this isn't even the final stage of it yet here. This was at the very infancy of the electrical stuff. That's I call it the umbilical going into the cab to operate the top lights. None of the lights were installed yet, however, this was just premeditatedly installed for the future expansion at that time. Nice new dome light, not much more else to mention. This cab had such limited space, I just sort of decided this was the best place to mount switches. Though I can say there is one side effect, unfortunately, that if you have little dogs that like to walk across there, our pup has accidentally triggered a few switches, but it's nothing deadly, of course, it's just annoying. Our new addition of the backup lights at that time. The fuel pump we relocated from the engine bay, where it wasn't working well, to the nearest we could to the fuel tank. And there it is, about 12 inches away from the fuel tank, mounted with a custom bracket I made. This is just a short clip to explain. I was inspecting for fuel system issues. I didn't really want to have to dismount the whole tank if I didn't have to. So I opened up the access port underneath where you would drain the tank, and using a little camera on my smartphone, flexible cameras, whatever they're called, I was able to inspect. Found no rust and the filter was looking good. A top rack getting installed here around the August time of last year. A lot of this has been updated, especially those mounting brackets, but the lights are pretty much effectively all the same. The custom brackets I made to reinforce it. I upgraded the flimsy metal I had holding those relays with a much stiffer metal I used to support the lights. Just fixed some mounting issues, nothing major there. The addition of I guess that you'd call it a little bull bar or something. It's a really cheap thing off Amazon, but it looks pretty good to have a mounting port for fog lights. The thermostat wasn't working. Apparently the one we replaced it with was faulty, so I did get a new one, and it turns out the temp gauge started working right, and we actually started to get good heat out of that afterwards. Light testing at the time, and here is our conversion to use the factory air filter housing. Sort of a quick abbreviated version of the install, but as you see, now instead of having that crummy little exposed air filter, it's going to be a little loud here. Okay. But, that's the new air horn. Just some additional relays. I was running a little bit low on the things adding. Some custom fixes here. That was a toothpick repair for the gauge needles that were broken. Refilling the tilt gauge here. It's when you see them get all jerky, it's really good to refill it with mineral oil. A headlight conversion, the negative to positive relays there. And there they are on the outside. I think the guards are pretty effective and cool. However, it is fair to note that ice and snow could build up in there, especially with LEDs. They don't run as hot, so just be wary. You got to clear those out if the snow fills them in. We had the CB antenna installed and cable ran into the cab, just getting ready for future radio expansion. Changing out the lot of the lights here to LED. I got a whole write-up on that if you guys want to reference that. That's on the Glass Pantry page. I link everything to. Just the interior lighting and improvements here. Much brighter. You could actually see them. This was before, however, I replaced those ones. Just the upgraded additional lighting continuing here. These ones are a little bit of a pain because they are directional, so you do have to make sure they get installed right, positive, negative, and so forth. These headlights have a daylight running feature, so they just use a signal source from the running lights on. It looks cool, I suppose, but you don't need to wire it in if you don't want to. Even upgraded the little ones, such as the dash lighting for the tail light there. The new CB radio holder there. And these are the upgraded locking tie downs for the roof rack. Got some off of Facebook Market for $90 for the whole set, and that's pretty hard to get. But look around, maybe you could find someone selling them for that much. There's the replacement radio I got installed. So really not much more than this. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good day.